My family threw a secret party for my brother's newborn Itab, but never told me or my daughter when we stopped by with a gift. My mom sneered, "You're not welcome here." My daughter held her hand, smiled, and replied, "We know. That's why Dad's lawyer is here with us." The room fell silent in shock. Can you imagine being 34 years old, standing on your parents' porch, listening to your own family laugh inside, at a baby shower you weren't even invited to? My own brother's baby shower. But what my teenage daughter, Lindsay, said next, as my mother tried to slam the door in our faces, wasn't just shocking, it changed everything. She looked my mom dead in the eye and said, "We know, Grandma. That's why Dad's lawyer came with us." Honestly, for a long time, I never understood why my parents treated me so differently from my brother Nathan. Heather Reynolds, was their firstborn. For 3 years, I was their whole world. Then Nathan arrived, and it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, I was the responsible one, the afterthought. For my 10th birthday, I got school supplies. 2 months later, Nathan, turning 7, got a brand new bike, video games, and a trip to Six Flags. "Nathan's just more sensitive," my mother would always say. "He needs the extra attention." I was left to fend for myself, striving for approval that never came. I worked so hard. In high school, I had a 3.9 GPA, I was on the debate team, I volunteered at the hospital. My parents attended exactly 2 debate competitions in 4 years, always citing work conflicts. But somehow, they never missed a single one of Nathan's baseball games, even if it meant leaving work early. The day I got my acceptance letter to Boston University with a partial scholarship, I rushed home, bursting with pride. I found my parents fawning over Nathan's C+ in algebra. My mother just glanced up. "That's nice, honey. We'll talk about it later. We're celebrating Nathan right now." We never did talk about it later. Then came the summer after graduation. I was 18, and I found out I was pregnant. Marcus, my boyfriend, disappeared within a week. My parents, their disappointment was palpable. "We expected more from you, Heather," my father said, his voice heavy with judgment. "You've always been so responsible." The irony of them finally acknowledging that quality in me, only to use it as a weapon, stung. But the strangest part, while they remained cold to me, they actually reconnected with Marcus. He'd been visiting them, painting himself as this overwhelmed, well-intentioned guy. My mother defended him. "He's just young and scared. You should give him time." Time I didn't have. I had a baby coming. While other expectant mothers had baby showers and support, I had silence and disapproval. Lindsay was born in February. A beautiful, green-eyed baby with her father's dark curls. My parents came to the hospital, stayed briefly, holding her awkwardly, like she was proof of my failure instead of their first grandchild. I deferred college, working 2 jobs, exhausted, but Lindsay, she gave me purpose. I swore to myself she would never know conditional love. Meanwhile, Nathan dropped out of community college after 1 semester, living at home until he was 25, hopping between jobs. Still the golden child, Lindsay grew up fast, and she was sharp. She noticed everything. "Why doesn't Grandma put my drawings on the refrigerator like she does with Uncle Nathan's birthday cards?" she asked once. What could I say? Some people just show love differently. I mumbled, but we both knew it wasn't the real issue. Despite it all, I kept trying to maintain a relationship. I invited them to Lindsay's school plays, sent photos, called regularly. I wanted her to have grandparents, even imperfect ones. But the favoritism only deepened, casting its painful shadow over my daughter too. By the time Lindsay was 15, I was a nurse practitioner at Boston Medical Center, owning my own small apartment. I'd built the stable life I'd always wanted for us. Lindsay, at 16, was already taking AP classes, researching pre-law programs. "I want to help people who don't have anyone on their side," she told me once. That hit me. Nathan's life finally found some direction when he met Rebecca, from a wealthy family with connections. Within a year, they were engaged. My parents were ecstatic. "Rebecca's been such a positive influence on Nathan," my mother gushed. I bit back the obvious. Nathan had been given every opportunity for years, while I'd clawed my way forward without a single shred of support. I just said, "That's wonderful." The wedding was elaborate. Lindsay and I were invited, but our names were misspelled. During the reception, My parents spent the evening introducing Rebecca's family to distant relatives, but somehow never got around to introducing them to their only daughter and granddaughter. A year later, Rebecca was pregnant. My parents' excitement reached new heights. My mother called me specifically to share the news, a rarity. "Nathan's going to be a father," she trembled. "Can you believe it? We're finally going to be grandparents." The word stung like a physical slap. "Mom," I reminded her quietly, "you've been a grandparent for 16 years. She dismissed it. "Oh, you know what I mean. This is different." And in her mind, it truly was. Despite the hurt, I tried to be supportive. I texted Rebecca, offered advice. Her response was polite but distant. Then my parents became even more elusive. Calls went to voicemail. When I reached them, conversations were brief. Twice I stopped by unannounced with cookies Lindsay had baked, only to be hurried out the door with vague excuses. "They're hiding something," Lindsay observed. I shrugged it off. "They're probably just busy." "Grandpa's retired, Mom," she pointed out. "And they were in casual clothes, not dressed for an appointment." The suspicious behavior continued. Once, when I called, I distinctly heard my mother whisper, "It's just Heather. I'll get rid of her quickly." Another time, my father said, "Don't mention Saturday to her," before my mother shushed him. Lindsay became increasingly protective. At a family dinner my parents couldn't reasonably avoid, my father mentioned a new restaurant they tried. "That's strange," Lindsay said. "Innocent as anything. Mom called you last weekend to see if you wanted to join us for lunch, but you said you were both sick." The uncomfortable silence was deafening. But the most revealing moment came when Lindsay froze while scrolling Instagram. "Mom," she said, slowly turning her phone. On the screen was a photo from my cousin Amber, a family gathering at my parents' house from the previous Sunday, a day my mother had told me they were busy with church. There they were, my parents, Nathan and Rebecca, all my aunts, uncles, cousins, around a barbecue. The caption read, "Sunday fun with the fam. So excited for baby boy Davis coming soon." "Did you know about this?" Lindsay asked, her voice tight with hurt. I shook my head, a lump in my throat. This wasn't a casual drop-in. This was a planned event to which every relative had been invited. Except us. "This isn't right," Lindsay declared. "Someone needs to say something." The next day, she called her grandparents directly. "Why weren't Mom and I invited to the family barbecue?" she demanded. My mother fumbled. "Oh, Lindsay, it was just a last-minute thing." "Last minute with 20 people?" Lindsay challenged. "Cousin Amber's post had it all planned out. And Mom had Sunday off. You know that because she invited you for lunch." My mother sighed. "Lindsay, sometimes adults have complicated reasons." "I'm old enough to recognize a lie," Lindsay interrupted, a steel in her voice I'd never heard before. "And I'm old enough to notice that you and Grandpa treat Mom differently than Uncle Nathan. Always have." She hung up. I was torn between pride in her loyalty and anxiety over the confrontation. My mother called me later, complaining about Lindsay's disrespect. For once, I found myself defending my daughter. She asked a fair question, Mom. "Why weren't we invited?" "It wasn't that kind of gathering," she insisted. "Not right for you." "Not right for your daughter and granddaughter, but right for second cousins we see once a year?" I pressed. The conversation ended with her claiming I was making mountains out of molehills and that I'd always been too sensitive. I tried to push the hurt aside until Aunt Judith, my mother's sister, texted me, "Looking forward to seeing you at Nathan's baby shower on Saturday." It's been too long. My stomach twisted. Baby shower? There had been no invitation, no mention from my parents or Nathan. I checked my email, my voicemail. Nothing. I typed back. "I think there's been a misunderstanding. I don't know anything about a baby shower on Saturday." 3 dots. Then, "Oh dear. I assumed you knew. Your mother has been planning it for weeks. It's at their house at 2 p.m. Maybe your invitation got lost." Lost? No. This was deliberate. When I picked up Lindsay from debate team, she noticed my distraction immediately. "What's wrong, Mom?" I hesitated, then told her. Aunt Judith texted, "Nathan's baby shower is Saturday. Neither of us were invited." Lindsay's face flushed with anger. "Are you serious? That's beyond messed up. Maybe it's women only?" I offered weakly, even though I knew it didn't explain my exclusion. "Then why not you?" You're his sister. And what about me? I'm his niece. That evening, I called my mother. Mom, is there a baby shower for Nathan and Rebecca this Saturday? A pause. Who told you about that? Not a denial. No apology. Just annoyance, I'd found out. Does it matter? Why wasn't I invited to my own brother's baby shower? It's just a small gathering, she said dismissively. Rebecca's mother organized it with me. Very intimate. Intimate enough for Aunt Judith from Rhode Island, but not intimate enough for your daughter and granddaughter who live 20 minutes away. Heather, please don't make this difficult. Rebecca wanted certain people there. And well, you two have never been close. And whose fault is that? I asked, my voice cracking despite myself. You've never given us the chance to be close. This isn't about you, she said firmly. This is Nathan and Rebecca's special time. Not everything revolves around your feelings. I hung up, tears flowing. Lindsay found me there. We should go anyway, she said suddenly. I looked up. What? We should go to the shower. Show up with a nice gift. Make them face what they're doing. Lindsay, we can't crash a party we weren't invited to. It's not crashing when it's family, she insisted. What are they going to do? Turn us away at the door in front of everyone? That would just show exactly who they really are. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to take the high road, but another part, the part that had swallowed hurt after hurt for decades, wanted to stand up. Let's think about it, I said. The next day, I bought a beautiful handmade wooden crib mobile. Something that showed genuine care despite our exclusion. By Saturday morning, I'd made my decision. We'd go, drop off the gift, and leave. No scene. Just a gentle reminder that we existed and cared. As we got ready, Lindsay was unusually quiet, focused on her phone. She excused herself, speaking in hushed tones from her bedroom. When she emerged, there was a determined set to her jaw. Everything okay? I asked. Everything's fine, she said, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Just confirming something. We drove in silence. As we turned onto their street, cars lined both sides. Aunt Judith's SUV from Rhode Island. Uncle Robert's pickup from New Hampshire. Everyone had made the effort. Everyone was welcome. Except us. Lindsay squeezed my hand. Remember, Mom. Just drop off the gift. We don't need to stay where we're not wanted. We approached the door, laughter and conversation spilling out. I almost ran, but Lindsay stood firm. I rang the bell. My mother's smile vanished the moment she saw us. Heather, Lindsay, what are you doing here? She stepped onto the porch, partly closing the door. I caught glimpses of blue decorations, oh, it's a boy, banner. We brought a gift for Nathan and Rebecca's baby, I said, my voice steady despite my thundering heart. Lindsay held up the package. My mother's eyes darted nervously. You shouldn't have come. You weren't invited. The words cut deeper than I expected. Years of subtle exclusion, now so plainly stated, took my breath away. I'm aware we weren't invited, Mom. We just wanted to drop this off. We won't stay. You don't belong here, Heather, she continued, voice low but firm. This is a special day for Nathan and Rebecca. Please don't make it about you. Tears threatened, but I blinked them back. I'm not trying to make it about me. I'm trying to be a good sister and aunt, despite being deliberately excluded. By now, our conversation had drawn attention. Faces appeared in the window. My father stepped out, looking uncomfortable. Karen, what's going on? He asked, then froze when he saw us. Heather, Lindsay, this is unexpected. We brought a gift for the baby, I repeated, my voice smaller now. Behind my father, Nathan appeared with Rebecca, her 7-month pregnant belly prominent. Nathan's face registered surprise, then guilt. Heather, what are you doing here? He echoed. Apparently making a huge mistake, I said, the hurt finally breaking through. We just wanted to give you this, but it seems we're not welcome even for that. Rebecca looked confused. I don't understand. Why wouldn't you be welcome? Before anyone could answer, more family members had gathered, creating an audience for our humiliation. Aunt Judith stepped forward, face flushed. Heather, I'm so sorry. I thought you knew about the shower. Clearly, I wasn't supposed to know, I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. The silence that followed was deafening. No one spoke up. Not my brother. Not my father. Not a single relative said, Of course you should be here. Their silence confirmed it. I was an outsider in my own family. I turned to leave, dignity in tatters. Come on, Lindsay, let's go. But Lindsay didn't move. She stepped forward, chin raised. Actually, I think we should stay. My mother frowned. Lindsay, this isn't appropriate. You need to leave with your mother. Lindsay smiled, a calm, confident smile beyond her 16 years. We know we don't belong here, Grandma. That's why Dad's lawyer came with us. Lawyer? My father's voice rose sharply. As if on cue, a man in a tailored suit approached from the street, carrying a leather briefcase. Good afternoon, he said, climbing the porch steps. My name is James Winters, attorney at law. I represent Marcus Williams in matters concerning his daughter, Lindsay Williams Reynolds, and her mother, Heather Reynolds. My mother's face drained of color. Marcus? What does he have to do with this? I was just as confused. Marcus had been gone for 16 years. I turned to Lindsay, but she gave me a look that asked for trust. The lawyer continued, I believe we should discuss this matter inside, unless you prefer to have this conversation in view of the entire neighborhood. My father hesitated, then grudgingly stepped aside. The festive atmosphere had evaporated inside. Relatives whispered. Rebecca sat heavily on the couch, distressed. Nathan stood protectively. The lawyer placed his briefcase on the coffee table. Miss Reynolds, he said, addressing me. I understand this may come as a surprise. Your daughter contacted our office 2 weeks ago. I turned to Lindsay, stunned. You did what? Lindsay took a deep breath. Mom, I've been in contact with Dad for almost 2 years now. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Marcus, the man who abandoned us, had been speaking to my daughter behind my back. He found me on Instagram, Lindsay continued. At first I ignored him, but eventually I agreed to meet him. He's changed, Mom. He wanted to make things right. Make things right. I repeated, my voice hollow. After 16 years? Miss Reynolds, the lawyer interjected. If I may explain the legal situation. For the past 14 years, Mr. Williams has been sending child support payments for Lindsay. That's impossible, I said immediately. I've never received a dime from Marcus. Not directly to you, the lawyer clarified. Mr. Williams was young and irresponsible when Lindsay was born. He admits that freely. When he tried to make contact a few years later, he was told by your parents that you wanted nothing to do with him. My gaze snapped to my parents. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. They suggested that to avoid upsetting you, he could send the support payments to them, and they would ensure the money was used for Lindsay's care. Mr. Williams agreed to this arrangement, believing it was what you wanted. The room tilted around me. Is this true? I asked my parents. My father cleared his throat. We were trying to protect you from further hurt. Marcus was unreliable. We didn't want him coming in and out of your lives. So you took his money instead? The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. For 14 years, Mr. Winters continued, Mr. Williams has records of every payment made. The total amount comes to approximately $97,000. The number hung in the air. Almost $100,000 that should have helped raise Lindsay. Money that could have paid for childcare while I was in nursing school. Money that could have meant fewer overnight shifts and more time with my daughter. Money that could have gone toward her college fund. Around the room, relatives' expressions shifted from confusion to shock to disgust. We were going to tell you eventually, my mother said weakly. We were saving it for Lindsay's college. In an account in your names, Mr. Winters pointed out, with no legal obligation to use it for Lindsay's education. Nathan stepped away from Rebecca, his face pale. Mom, Dad, is this true? You took money meant for Heather and Lindsay. We needed it more than they did, my father said defensively. Heather was doing fine on her own. She had her nursing job. We had retirements to think about, and your college tuition, Nathan. The words struck me like physical blows. My parents had used money meant for their struggling single-parent granddaughter to fund their retirement and Nathan's education. You paid for Nathan's college with money that was meant for my child. My voice rose despite my efforts. Rebecca, silent until now, stood up awkwardly. I had no idea about any of this, she said, her voice shaking. Nathan, did you know? Nathan hesitated, just a fraction of a second too long. You knew. I whispered, the final betrayal a knife to my heart. Not everything, he stammered. I knew Marcus was sending some money, but I didn't know how much or for how long. I thought it was just a few thousand, not this. Mr. Winters cleared his throat. Mr. and Mrs. Davis, Mr. Williams has authorized me to present you with two options. First, you can repay the full amount plus interest, which comes to approximately $115,000 within 30 days. Alternatively, we can pursue criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement, in addition to a civil suit. Criminal charges? My mother's voice was barely audible. But we're family. Family doesn't steal from family, Lindsay said quietly. Especially not from a child. Aunt Judith stepped forward. Karen, Michael, how could you do this to your own daughter and granddaughter? Others joined in, a growing chorus of disapproval. The family that had so readily excluded us was now witnessing the ugly truth. We needed the money, my father repeated. So did we. I finally shouted, years of suppressed anger breaking through. Do you have any idea what we went through? The nights I stayed up crying because I couldn't afford both rent and childcare. The scholarships I lost because I couldn't maintain a full course load. The birthdays when Lindsay got one small gift while you showered Nathan with presents, all while you had thousands of dollars that rightfully belonged to her. Nathan approached me, his expression pained. Heather, can we talk privately? I nodded. In the kitchen, he said. I swear I didn't know the full extent of this. Dad told me it was just a few thousand Marcus owed for expenses. And you never questioned that? Never thought to ask me? I should have, he admitted. I was selfish. It was easier not to ask questions when things were going my way. I looked at him, the brother always chosen over me, who had benefited from my exclusion. Yet, I saw genuine remorse. I'm sorry, Heather. For everything. For never standing up for you, for accepting their favoritism, for taking what should have been Lindsay's. Rebecca appeared in the doorway, tears streaming. Heather, I had no idea you weren't invited to the shower. When your mother said she'd handle the guest list, I assumed that included you. I'm so sorry. Her apology seemed sincere, but it was a drop in the ocean of what had been revealed. I think we should go, I said, suddenly exhausted. When we returned to the living room, Mr. Winters was explaining repayment terms to my ashen-faced parents. Lindsay stood beside him, looking simultaneously younger and older than her 16 years, a child wronged, a young woman taking action. We'll leave now, I announced. Mr. Winters has our contact information for arranging repayment. Heather, please, my mother began. We can explain. I think you've explained quite enough, I interrupted. Enjoy the rest of the shower. As we turned to leave, Lindsay placed the gift on the table. Congratulations on the baby, Uncle Nathan, she said softly. The drive home was quiet, the lawyer following behind us. When we arrived at our apartment, Lindsay finally broke the silence. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about Dad. I wanted to make sure he was serious about making things right before I got your hopes up. I squeezed her hand. You have nothing to apologize for. You did what I should have done years ago. Stood up for us. The baby shower dissolved into chaos after we left. Most guests quickly departed. My parents tried to salvage it, but the damage was done. I had no idea they were capable of something like this, Aunt Judith told me the next day. Taking money from their own granddaughter. It's unconscionable. In the days that followed, family members reached out, one by one. Some expressed outrage. Others distanced themselves. A few admitted they'd noticed the disparity, but never spoken up. We should have said something, my Uncle Robert confessed. My parents, of course, tried damage control, claiming they'd only borrowed the money and always intended to give it to Lindsay. Few were convinced. 3 days after the shower, Nathan called and asked to meet. We met at a small cafe. He looked tired. Rebecca's been crying since Saturday, he said. She feels terrible. Mom told her you were busy with work and couldn't make it to the shower. And you? I asked. What did you think when you didn't see me there? He had the grace to look ashamed. I noticed, but I didn't question it. That's been the pattern my whole life. Not questioning when things went my way. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been thinking about everything. All the times they chose me over you. All the opportunities one got that you didn't. The money that should have gone to your niece. Yes, I finished for him. He looked me in the eyes. I want to make it right, Heather. Rebecca and I agree. Whatever Mom and Dad can't pay back, we will. I hadn't expected this. That's not your responsibility, Nathan. Maybe not legally, but morally. I benefited from their favoritism my entire life. I got the college education that Lindsay's money helped pay for. I can't change the past, but I can try to fix this part of it. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Really talked. Perhaps for the first time as adults. Nathan confessed he'd always accepted their preferential treatment because it benefited him. He admitted feeling inadequate beside my achievements, which made it easier to accept their favoritism. I always thought you were the strong one, he said. You didn't seem to need their approval the way I did. I needed it just as much, I told him. I just stopped expecting it. When we parted, something had shifted between us. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of understanding. That evening, my parents showed up unannounced at our apartment. Lindsay answered and immediately called for me. We need to talk, my father said. I let them in. We've been thinking about everything, my mother began. We made a terrible mistake. We never meant for it to go on so long. 16 years is more than a mistake, I said quietly. It's a choice. Multiple choices made every day for 16 years. We needed the money, my father explained. The economy was bad, my hours were cut. Nathan needed braces. And my struggles didn't matter? I asked. The times I had to choose between paying the electric bill and buying Lindsay new shoes? The night classes I took while 8 months pregnant because I couldn't afford a semester off. We thought you were managing, my mother said weakly. Because I had to. My voice rose. Not because it was easy, not because we didn't need that money, but because I had no choice but to manage. My parents looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. My father cleared his throat. We've spoken to our financial advisor. We can liquidate some investments to repay about half the amount immediately. The rest, we'd need time. That's between you and Mr. Winters, I replied. I'm not involved in the legal aspects. And beyond the money, my mother asked hesitantly, can we fix this? Can we be a family again? Lindsay spoke before I could. A family doesn't do what you did. A family doesn't steal from a child or exclude people from celebrations. A family doesn't consistently choose one member over another. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We love you both. We made terrible mistakes, but we love you. Love without respect isn't love, I said, finally articulating what I'd felt for years. Love without actions to back it up is just an empty word. They left with no resolution. Just the beginning of a financial restitution that could never truly compensate for what had been taken. Not just money, but belonging, security, and trust. The following week, I finally met Marcus. The first time in 16 years. Lindsay had arranged it. He had aged well, his youthful cockiness replaced by a quieter confidence. He was married now, with 2 young sons, an architectural engineer. I don't expect forgiveness, he said, after an awkward greeting. What I did was unforgivable. Then why come back now? I asked. I've been in therapy for years, he explained. When my first son was born, it hit me hard what I'd missed with Lindsay, what I'd taken from both of you. He showed me documentation of every payment. The systematic deception was laid out in black and white. When I found Lindsay on social media, I just wanted to see her. I didn't expect a relationship, didn't think I deserved one. But she gave me a chance I hadn't earned. Lindsay, who had insisted on being there, reached across the table and took his hand. Everyone deserves a second chance if they're truly sorry. I wasn't ready to offer such forgiveness, but seeing my daughter's grace moved me deeply. She had grown into someone stronger and wiser than I had been at her age. I want to be part of her life, Marcus said to me, and make up for what was taken from both of you. Not just the money, the time, the support, everything. That's not for me to decide anymore, I said, looking at Lindsay. She's old enough to choose what relationship she wants with you. As we left the cafe, I realized that while one family bond had been irrevocably broken, others were forming in its place. Fragile, but genuine, based on truth rather than obligation. 6 months passed. Winter turned to spring, bringing renewal. The first payment from my parents arrived through Mr. Winters exactly 30 days after the confrontation. $57,000, representing the liquidation of some investments. The rest would come in monthly installments. Each check arrived promptly, though without any personal note. I chose not to contact them, needing space. Nathan and Rebecca's son, James Michael, was born in February. I learned of the birth from Nathan. "We'd like you and Lindsay to come meet him," he said, his voice soft with new parent exhaustion and joy. We went the next day, bringing the crib mobile and a stuffed elephant. Rebecca welcomed us warmly. "He's beautiful," I said honestly, looking at my nephew's tiny face. As I cradled James, I felt no resentment. This child deserved a loving aunt and cousin. "Mom's been calling," Nathan mentioned. "She wants to see the baby." "That's natural," I replied. "I told her she could visit next week," he continued. "But I also told her things will be different now. No more favoritism, no more secrets. If she wants a relationship with James, she has to respect our boundaries." It was the first time I'd heard my brother stand up to our parents, and though it shouldn't have taken their disgrace to prompt this change, I was proud of him. Marcus had become a regular presence in Lindsay's life. He'd offered to pay for her education in full, a gesture that meant more symbolically than financially, as my parents' repayments would cover most of her tuition. "He's trying really hard," Lindsay told me. "Not just to be in my life, but to do it right. Not pushing too fast or overcompensating with gifts instead of time." I met Marcus's wife, Diane, and their 2 young boys. Diane had known about Lindsay from the start and encouraged Marcus to reconnect. The boys were excited to have a big sister. My own relationship with Marcus remained cordial but distant. Too much had happened, too many years lost. But I respected his efforts with Lindsay. In April, I received an unexpected email from my mother. I almost deleted it unread, but decided that would be acting from the same avoidance that had characterized their behavior. "Dear Heather," it began, "your father and I would like to see you and Lindsay. We understand if you're not ready, but we miss you both and would like the opportunity to apologize in person. We've been seeing a family therapist and working to understand our actions. Please consider meeting us. With love, Mom." I showed the email to Lindsay. "What do you think? Should we meet them?" She considered it thoughtfully. "They haven't really changed, you know. One apology and a few therapy sessions don't undo a lifetime of behavior." "You're right," I agreed. "But people can grow, even later in life." "Like Dad did," she acknowledged. "But he put in years of work before reaching out to me. He didn't expect immediate forgiveness." In the end, we declined the meeting. Not out of spite, but because true reconciliation required more than words. It required demonstrated change over time. "Real relationships are built on respect and honesty," I wrote back. "Those foundations need to be established before we can move forward." As spring turned to summer, Lindsay received acceptance letters from several prestigious universities. She ultimately chose Boston University, my alma mater, planning to study pre-law. The money that should have supported her throughout childhood would now fund her education. A fitting, if belated, use. "I want to become the kind of lawyer who helps people stand up for themselves," she told me, like Mr. Winters did for us. I looked at my daughter, this remarkable young woman who had found the courage to confront injustice when I had accepted it for too long. "You're already helping people stand up for themselves," I told her, tears in my eyes. "You helped me." Life continued to evolve in unexpected ways. Nathan and Rebecca moved closer to our apartment, making it easier to be part of James's life. Marcus's sons occasionally joined Lindsay's weekend visits, creating a blended family dynamic I never could have imagined. My parents continued their monthly payments, but respected our wish for distance. The most surprising change came from within me. The anger and hurt that had been my constant companions gradually began to loosen their grip. Not because what had been done was forgivable, but because holding on to that pain no longer served me or Lindsay. True healing wasn't about reconciliation with those who had wronged us. It was about reclaiming our own worth, establishing healthy boundaries, and creating a life filled with genuine connections. One year after the confrontation at the baby shower, Lindsay and I hosted a graduation party at our apartment. Nathan and Rebecca came with baby James. Marcus attended with Diane and the boys. Friends from work and Lindsay's debate team filled our small living space with laughter and conversation. Noticeably absent were my parents, but their absence no longer defined us. We had created our own family, not bound by obligation or blood alone, but by choice, respect, and love. As I watched Lindsay, Surrounded by people who truly celebrated her achievements, I realized we had both finally found what we had always deserved, a place where we unquestionably belonged. Have you ever had to create boundaries with family members who didn't treat you right? What helped you heal from family betrayal? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself and creating the family you deserve. Remember, sometimes the strongest family bonds aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we build with love and respect. Thank you for listening to my story, and I wish you all the strength to create the healthy relationships you deserve.